Welcome to Countdown to Infinity, a Marvel's Avengers podcast. We talk all things Marvel Cinematic Universe, the TV shows or the Disney Plus streaming stuff, the movies, películas. What does that mean in English?
Movies.
Same thing.
But,
yeah, you just said the same thing twice.
Wrong, I said it wrong. Okay.
You said películas.
That's why I didn't think I said... Yeah, I for sure didn't say it right. I made it sound like Scott Bakula, like Scott Pellicula.
You also just wanted to make
it
seem like you said the same thing twice. Like we cover the movies, and then you just said movies, or you tried to say movies in a different, in a different language.
At some point, and this is probably in the near future, there will be more hours of the streaming stuff than movie stuff, and then it'll be like, what if you're born tomorrow? It's going to take you like 40 years to get through all of the MCU, and it'll be pointless. Don't you think? And now you got to watch all the Spider-Man too, technically?
I think we may have said that in a previous episode where like eventually you're going to hit like a weird like ceiling where you're going to just need like cliff notes if you want to catch on. If not, then like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Oh, Disney's already doing that though, right? Like Disney Legends. I watch them. I mean, I watch them sometimes to refresh me on, what Taskmaster is, what happened to that person. So I guess you're right. They're getting really good at making these cliff notes, and this pod is obsolete now, I guess, huh? Disney Plus is doing our job.
Mm-hmm.
They should have Michael Pena just run down everything that you needed on Cliff Notes, like in Ant-Man. That'd be cool.
And then have him like maybe 5 years from now just doing it as a show on its own, because it's going to be like
be that long.
All right. Well, I'm Emmanuel.
Hey, I'm Andrew.
What's up? It's John.
And if you're, I guess, listening to this, you've already read the title of this episode, and it's a very quick recap of a trailer that we saw. Some of us watched it online. Some of us were watching good old Monday Night Football. How about them boys? Am I right? And we're talking about Moon Knight. It's really exciting. It's also the closest new MCU thing to us. Although it is at the end of March 30th, and by the time that series wraps up, Multiverse of Madness, I believe, will be in theaters. But we've got a lot of time to go. We just thought it'd be nice to talk about this trailer because at least, I'm speaking for myself, I don't know anything about Moon Knight at all. And I'm kind of intrigued by this, and having it premiere as the first thing of this new year really shows, I think, a vote of confidence for Marvel. WandaVision was the first thing they released, the first MCU streaming thing they've ever released. But anything you put out before March means you're trying to get that sweet Emmy, baby. So, John, what'd you think about that Moon Knight trailer?
It looks more cinematic than I thought it was going to. I don't know why I'm saying that. All the Marvel shows look pretty much cinematic. But watching this, it looks really, it looks like something. It's a very, there's definitely like, a lot of adventure involved. And I do like the fact that Oscar Isaac is probably going to, knock it out of the park. Cosmo thinks so too.
Yeah, let me just, you could hear my dog.
But
I said that in a weird tense. I said that in like present tense. Like, instead of you can hear my dog, I said you could hear my dog.
Yeah.
You may be able to.
You said these mics. Are these mics just that strong, or is your dog just that loud? Like that's the thing.
It's probably both, which is the worst combination. But yeah, Oscar Isaacs, I think, he wasn't even on my... he wasn't on my 2020 bingo card as being in the MCU, baby. But I guess he was in Star Wars, so...
And Dune, and he's checking off franchises and the X-Men franchise.
He was Apocalypse, yeah, exactly.
That's true, Blue. He needs to be... He needs
Apocalypse
to keep
from,
that...
oh, shit.
Sorry, we're recording because of COVID remotely. But I was going to say he needs to keep that blue makeup so he can be in an Avatar movie. But
that's a funnier joke than what I was going to make. I wasn't even making a joke. It's the fact that like Apocalypse, the character is from Egypt, and so is Moon Knight, the character.
Oh my gosh.
So he just loves Egyptian superhero or like supervillain characters, I guess in this case.
That's interesting.
The trailer looks really, really fun. I think the big surprise is Ethan Hawke joining an MCU movie because of the way he felt about the whole thing. Like a couple of years ago, remember how he said like Logan can't reach the heights of Fellini or some shit like that. Like if they ever really wanted to, but like yeah,
I don't remember that, but that's an insane statement.
Yeah, you can find it online. And then it's always fun. It's funny though because then he just jumped into this, and then not that it's like hypocritical. I think everybody's gonna want to do a superhero movie, or on a practical sense, yeah, like what Drew's saying, like it pays a lot of money. I don't know why you wouldn't want. You get a big exposure and everything.
Are you telling me he didn't make more money making
Boyhood?
Yeah, Boyhood.
Oh, well, he did. He just made it over the course of 12 years, so it's just...
I know, he spent his Boyhood money the first week of Boyhood.
Yeah.
And then he was like, damn it.
Yeah, he was owed $10 for each scene after the year
That's
after.
like if someone breaks down like what 10 years is hourly for Ethan Hawke, he may be getting paid less than minimum wage. Poor guy.
But actually, yeah, seeing him in here, I'm kind of very excited. And then the Moon Knight character too is it's really cool to just see him in live action. I never thought they would actually do him because he's kind of like the similarities between him and Batman, which are very surface level. In the comics, Mark Spector is a vigilante who doesn't really have any powers.
Mark
and
Spector.
Yeah,
that's a cool name, Mr. F.
Yeah, and he just has like a bunch of gadgets and stuff. It seems like the MCU is kind of going towards a supernatural take on it. I mean, it's semi supernatural in the comics too. I mean, he gets his strength from the god Khonshu. I think that's his name.
Khonshu. Yeah,
the Egyptian god Khonshu, who's the god of vengeance and the moon, I guess. And so yeah, it looks like in this case he's not making his own gadgets. It looks like stuff just kind of appears around him in a magical sense, which I think is pretty awesome. But it looks really fun. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they do with it because it's obviously a character that's I don't know if a lot of people know about him. I know he's kind of very popular in the deep Marvel comics circle, but it's going to be really cool to see people react to this character. I think in this case because I don't know. I don't think they're going to take the mixed approach when it came to Eternals, but in this case we're not watching a show about 10 people. We're just watching a show about one dude and his supporting cast.
Yeah, and it's created by a bunch of people who worked in horror, so it seems a little darker, at least. I think Ethan Hawke's character is based on the real-life Waco disaster leader, a cult type thing, so at least from what I've seen so far, it seems like it's a little spooky. But Andrew, what do you think about this trailer? How many people go into the comic book shop asking for Moon Knight? And then how many ask for you to moon them?
At night.
At night.
Man, I'm about to sneeze so hard. I'm trying to hold it in real bad, but that was a funny joke. I swear I was going to laugh.
No. You should edge your sneeze until completion. Yeah.
Just kidding. Anyway,
and then full release.
Yeah, I'm just it's gonna peak. You better take your headphones out because it's about to fucking go down. But no, I thought the trailer was cool. I think I do get a lot of people that go into the shop asking for Moon Knight because he's kind of like Marvel's closest version to like Batman, just kind of dark. He's part of the Marvel Knights, which means his stories go to the little bit more mature.
Is he rich
to a mature audience? Yeah, in
the comics, I think in the comics, Mark Spector is rich.
That's right. So when he gets back, he's originally like in the army, like CIA type of crazy stuff, and he eventually he dies and he crawls into an Egyptian tomb, and they bring him back. And when he comes back, he uses all of his fortune to fuel his Moon Knight vigilanteism. But yeah, in this one, that's why I'm really excited, I think, about this show because it has the potential to do a lot of twists on you. You're not going to know what's real and what's not because of his sleeping disorder, but also the fact that, he's probably had a whole nother life before this and then died, and then they made him the Moon Knight. And so people aren't going to know that. They're just going to think that he is the Moon Knight, and you're going to end up finding out that he was a piece of shit before in another life, and he's doing this to atone for all of the violence that he did, like the way he does in the books. But Um, yeah, I was really surprised. I didn't think Oscar Isaac had it in him, to be honest with you, because I mean the previous two Disney swings weren't the best, so to speak, with people not taking to the sequel trilogy and the Force Awakens and Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker for Star Wars, but also. X-Men Apocalypse was kind of like a dud. I'm actually surprised that it got one more go with Dark Phoenix. Blows my mind that they got past Apocalypse, but yeah, it's really really cool to kind of get to see him. I wouldn't say he needs to be redeemed or anything like that because he's a phenomenal actor, but just kind of get his actual footing in Disney, and that's one of the things I really like about Disney as a company is that they kind of keep these actors on, like Ming-Na Wen. Ever since she was Mulan, she's had a job consistently with them forever, and so Oscar Isaac's one of those people that you're like, okay, and like I hope that he stays on here and has job security.
To that point, it's only a couple of years before Lin-Manuel Miranda will probably be some MCU character or something like that, because he's one of those Disney people who are in every Disney thing. And I was going to say the Frozen couple, but they actually wrote the music for WandaVision, so they're already in the MCU, I guess. The whole Disney crew is there. But yeah, I'm excited because it seems like Oscar Isaacs is going to get to do the thing that James McAvoy did in Split, which was, sadly not recognized at all by any awards body for that entire year, but play multiple characters. I'm not sure how many characters he had in Split, but it was, I think, in the dozens, if I'm not mistaken, that he's switching on and off from. But I think, isn't that something that he said that his character in Moon Knight has to deal with? And in the trailer, too, I think there's a scene where someone calls him and he's like totally confused. He's like, who are you talking about? And it's him. He's got all these personalities.
That's something that they're bringing. So the trailer seems like a misdirect. I don't think they're adapting, like I said earlier, the full Moon Knight character. I think they're kind of taking some liberties with them, possibly to differentiate from Batman. Because Batman, like I said, Mark Spector, I think, is a billionaire at some point in the comics, and he basically funds his vigilantism like Batman does. So in this case, I think they're going more on a route where he does have the dissociative identity disorder in the comics as well. But it's because he has so many secret identities. It seems like in this one, something's happening to where like two people are sharing the same body from the synopsis. Like, Stephen Grant is actually sharing like a body with Mark Spector. And I think at one point in the trailer, Steven kind of takes over the personality while he's in the car, and he's probably like in a vigilante or in a Mark Spector mercenary mission because he's Mark Spector's a mercenary.
That's true, and we see him beating someone up to a pulp almost.
Yeah, at the very end, which is pretty cool because before that you do see the suit jump on him like almost magically, and I think that's pretty awesome because I like the fact that they're going finally into like maybe a horror Midnight Suns era of Marvel stuff, because I think I think they're getting ready to announce Werewolf by Night, and then
which is where Moon Knight made his first appearance back in the day.
And then you have people like Blade and stuff like
Blade
that.
Blade is huge.
It opens
and
the door.
What was the name of the guy?
The
the backdoor pilot dude from the Eternals. I forgot already. Jon Snow.
The Black Knight. Yeah.
Oh, the Black Knight.
Another Knight.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then we'll have Phil Knight, the coach from the NBA, will be here too. Let's see, what other Knights can we think of? I think it's exciting too because there is a chance here to kind of address that disorder without it being kind of too hokey. Does that make sense? Like I think that I remember reading that the comic book at the time was a little problematic just because they labeled everything schizophrenia and saying, "Oh, that guy's schizo," which is a different, mental disease. And I believe like the directing team on this series is also of Middle Eastern descent, which I think is great, especially considering that at the time I think Marvel was just using Egyptian imagery for imagery's sake. Like they just wanted it to look Egyptian or use the moon. All of their costumes and stuff. And it's nice to kind of have this kind of motivation behind it. And I think it'll be done pretty well, considering how Marvel's been kind of going through the other problematic stuff in MCU history, or Marvel history, at least, like Shang-Chi and the Mandarin and stuff. I think it'll be exciting to see what his backstory is. Well, what do you think about kind of the possibilities cinematic? I don't want to talk about like villains and stuff because it seems pretty. Well, I don't know. Well, I guess we can talk about it. Who do you think the villain will be in Moon Knight? I mean, apart from I guess himself. I think it seems like they're setting up Ethan Hawke as this Waco-esque cult leader who makes him go darker. But I feel like there's a lot of red herrings in the MCU recently, and they don't like Agatha. We didn't know about. We didn't know much about Kingpin. For Hawkeye. But Andrew, do you have any kind of predictions over who you think will play the foil to Moon Knight in this? I guess there could be like Sun Princess or something.
I think the Sun King.
No, I think it most definitely is Ethan Hawke. Who it is, to be honest, I'm not sure. I know that you said that he's based off of something, which that was the big thing about adapting Moon Knight in the first place in the MCU, because since he is for that more mature audience, I kind of wanted to see how they were going to put some of that brutality that his character is kind of notorious for. Batman beats the living shit out of a lot of these criminals where it's like, oh, they're not dead, but they're most definitely in a coma. And so Moon Knight's kind of in the same realm, and the way they kind of get around it here is the thing he's beating up looks like a Anubis, like from like the Egyptian, like it's like a dog person looking thing. And so I'm really excited to see like what because everyone always has a henchman. It's never just the villain. They always have a gang or something like that. So I'm sure that Ethan Hawke, whoever he is, he's playing, he's going to end up having these old school Egyptian demons or what have you. And that's really exciting because that's a really cool way. I compare it to like, you remember that Shang-Chi sequence when Wenwu goes in and starts to beat up all the people who were responsible for the death of his wife, where it's like, man, they're able to kind of push the boundary with PG-13 with just simple camera tricks where it's like, hey, we don't show the person that's dying, or we cut away at a specific point, or it's only showing the Shang-Chi's point of view. It's only looking at his face and he's kind of showing his reaction to things. So I hope that they kind of get creative in this sense, because I know that they're not going to be able to stretch it into the full rated R type of stuff.
Yeah, and that'll be a big change in tone, definitely. I'm wondering if, it's on Disney Plus. I'm wondering if there's, Disney's very careful about what's on Disney Plus. They own a lot of different things, including Fox, and they haven't really used Disney Plus as a place to share a lot of that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how they, if it is kind of pushing that envelope, how they differentiate it. I don't know if there's going to be a adults only tab, XXX adults only pay-per-view tab of Disney Plus or something. But who knows? You're right. They could just kind of get to that point without showing, some crazy stuff like that. Some James Gunn-esque violent sequences. But John, what do you think about kind of what the conflict will be? There's also side characters. He has a friend who's gay who's like basically his partner, that helps him out a lot of times. Like what are you looking forward to in this series?
I'm kind of looking forward to seeing
hot Oscar Isaac.
Well, that's probably the first priority. I think the other thing is, like, I do really want to see who the villain is. I think there's chat that there's going to be it's probably going to be a combination of a couple of villains, but and then the main persona could be like something, an adaptation of the Sun King, which is like a recent Moon Knight villain. The Sun King is basically the opposite of what Moon Knight is, if you think about it. and Marvel has a kind of a tendency to do that. They kind of the villains are usually the opposite of the character. In this, Monger and Iron Man, Wanda and another witch who's like, just older than her. And and in this case, it could be Moon Knight and the Sun King. So I kind of do want to see a lot of that. I do want to see. If it's MCU, you can't help but get giddy at the thought of this is, at the references that are going to happen. But I really kind of want them to tone that down until absolutely necessary. But I am excited to see Moon Knight kind of interact with a wider universe in this case, because Moon Knight is such a weird character to see in live action. So having him interact with like people like Shang-Chi or the Hulk or something is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I'm also interested to know what city that he's based in, because if it's New York,
I think it's London. I think it's London in this one.
Yeah. That makes sense, because I was like, oh boy, if it's New York again, what's going to happen in New York where all this is going crazy? And it looks like they filmed in Budapest and Jordan, I'm sure, for the sequences that have to do with his origin. And of course, they filmed the rest of it in Atlanta, where every other MCU thing is made. I'm really interested too about. I think one of the things that makes me most excited about this, and I believe in our little episode where we talked about the coming year, this was my number one, or it was really high up there for me, apart from Multiverse of Madness, just because it's an introduction to a new character. All of the Disney Plus series have, apart from What If, of course, have been kind of a fleshing out and kind of a next level of characters we've already met before. Yeah, in the Avengers, really. Most of them are Avengers. And that is exciting and fun, but this is a brand new character. It kind of expands the world even more, because we're exposed to the magic side of stuff. We know there's multiverses. We know there's space and fun guardians in the galaxy with Walkmans and raccoons. But this, and I think the introduction of some of these other characters introduce us to like this historic pre-industrial modern magic thing that's going on in the MCU, which is like a wild thing to think about. It reminds me of when the Transformers revealed that the Knights of the Round Table also interacted with Transformers. But I probably shouldn't have compared it to that, but
Spoiler alert, damn.
Sorry, everyone. It's fine. Bumblebee's fine. But there's a lot of this kind of world that we really haven't seen a lot at the MCU, apart from that sword in the Eternals. But there's a whole other
like a horror
history,
side.
A horror side that I guess existed for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years before Tony Stark. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's like Egyptian gods. Like, it's insane to think like Eternals, who like apparently created everything. They actually have an Egyptian god walking around that's making people into Moon Knights.
Well, and man, and it kind of sucks too, because you're like, damn, I would have loved to have seen Moon Knight interact with Iron Man, or I would have loved to have seen Moon Knight fight Thanos and Blade, quip around with fucking Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow or whatever, Yeah. And like, damn, it kind of sucks that it's not like a real comic book where everyone's always around all the time, no one really dies, type of thing. But
like Star Wars.
Yeah. No one's ever really
in this
gone.
Case, yeah. Well, also they're really hot, and there's Boba Fett,
Yeah, I get we also get a hint of this, and I don't know why I didn't think about this, but the 10 rings in Shang-Chi are also these things that don't belong in our universe. So I'm wondering if this all is going to be tied together somehow, the mystic stuff, the space stuff. But you remember Doctor Strange talking about the rings and how they are much older and not from our universe or something like that. And I feel like that may be why we're getting visits from Egyptian gods and soon vampires and people from other IP. It's going to be kind of crazy the next, I guess, couple years for Marvel, at least as it. I mean, we thought the world was already expanded after On Your Left, but now it's going to be on your left, on your right, under you,
underneath you.
Underneath you, behind you, bent over. But Andrew, what else are you looking forward to in Moon Knight? I guess we'll wrap up our thoughts from the trailer, and of course we're going to be talking about it once the series comes out in 6 weeks.
Yeah, really soon.
It's really soon, just 2 months away now. But Andrew, what are your final thoughts on the Moon Knight?
I'm really excited, and like these, I always get excited because I know people are like physical comic book stores are a dying industry, and I happen to work at one. But it's really crazy to kind of to see the way it's a gateway drug into the actual source material, and that's something that I've always, I think, appreciated from the movies, because you watch the movie and you're like, well, damn, I want more of this character somehow, anyway. And the people come in and kind of end up reading the book, so it's really really neat to kind of just get people interested in these type of characters that have been around for a long time, which is, it's one of the issues I have with people not wanting to like recast like a role like Iron Man or something like that, where it's like Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man, like, and that's it. Where it's like, nah, Iron Man kind of existed before Robert Downey Jr. Did. So, and he's going to be here after. So, yeah, I'm really excited to just get people interested in some of the more interesting, quote, B, C list characters that have always been around that are about to take the spotlight, and they're about to become A list characters in this type of, pop culture centric phase we're living in.
Yeah, and for sure, we're gonna be seeing a bunch of mini Avengers happening all the time. I think, especially when we're talking about like Moon Knight and the people who are I guess similar to him in his fights. But John, what are you looking forward to in Moon Knight? Or yeah, what are your final thoughts on Moon Knight? At least from what you know so far.
I'm just excited to see it. I mean, it's crazy. Because the trailer was basically a tease. Like I know it's a first trailer, and
did it tease you good?
It totally did. I mean, I'm excited for March 30th. I think
it kind of tickles a little bit.
The biggest surprise of this show is the fact that it's coming so soon to me, and so we're not going to wait long to see it, and so I'm I just really want to see a good it's like what you said, Delphin. It's an introduction to a new character that you're getting in a show as opposed to like a movie. So we're already going to spend more time with Moon Knight than we did with, any other new character in the past, technically. So that's going to be awesome. And I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go through this list. So in last year, 4 of the top 10, I guess, originals on Disney Plus were MCU releases. Honestly, not that exciting. Not that exciting. Sorry, not that surprising, I guess. But it kind of just shows that we're talking about Moon Knight, but it's one of 4 series being released on Disney Plus next year, and it's just constantly going to be happening. So this is really exciting because it is someone who's not connected to the Avengers. It seems to be different, which is after, I guess, now hundreds of hours of content from the MCU. It's crazy that we are still getting something that's really different. And it's Oscar Isaac. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets an Emmy nom from this. He's just such a beloved actor who's really, really talented and works with, the Coen brothers and Rian Johnson and like the best filmmakers around. So it'll be really exciting. Also, Ethan Hawke. And I was going to bring this up, but, Ethan Hawke is really great friends with Scott Derrickson. They had a partnership on Sinister, and they do work on stuff off screen. It's interesting. I don't know. I wonder if he signed on to this before Scott Derrickson left the MCU with such a bad taste in his mouth, and whether or not that kind of has any effect on Ethan Hawke being in the MCU in the first place. But it's crazy because you're right. As surprising it is to have Oscar Isaac, which it really isn't that surprising because he's a Disney friend, but Ethan Hawke, he's like an indie dude. He makes like First Reformed, like he makes some really small movies, and here he is in the MCU. It's gonna get us all. The MCU is gonna get us all.
Yeah, we're gonna in 10 years we'll be in the MCU.
Yeah, it's just it'll be like Westview. We'll just suddenly be inside of WandaVision season 8 or some shit, where it's like super meta. All right, well, let's go around the horn and give our final plugs. John, what do you have to plug this week? This is Countdown to Infinity, a Marvel's Avengers podcast. So remember that, John. Don't plug that because you're already on it.
I'm going to plug Revenge of the Sequel. We just finished up our season a couple of weeks ago. And it was a good season. You guys should check it out. There were some good movies that we watched. And I think we're planning on coming back in probably the spring or maybe summer with a new event season where we talk about all 25 James Bond movies. And it's going to be fun. So check it out.
Yeah, and it'll be exciting to finally talk about an Amazon original. And Andrew, what do you have to plug?
Mostly vaccinations and masks. Beware, the Omicron is at hand. But also,
oh my gosh.
Be sure to check out our boys at the Dirt Sheet Radio. Be sure to check out Director Showdown. Be sure to check out Not in Theaters. Be sure to check out what John was saying and for Revenge of the Sequel, but also the Countdown Strikes Back at our Star Wars podcast, if that's your thing. We're covering the Book of Fett. We're covering a couple other books too in the High Republic, which that's going to be important in a while when the TV show comes out, The Acolyte, and also the new video game that was teased. So you're going to want to know. I know you're not going to want to read. So we do it for you, and you can listen to us on there.
And you know what? That video game looks so cool. I just hope they deliver. I guess they have issues actually delivering on the stuff that they tease.
Yeah. But what's it called? Star Wars cool. Eclipse?
Yeah, that's I mean, if you like drums, watch that trailer. There's a lot of drums in it. Maybe Andrew will Twitch that for you. Twitch the entire game or some shit. All these heroes on the MCU, but none of them compares to you. If you get that sweet booster or vaccine, you will technically save more lives IRL than any MCU characters.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
Good segue.